Welcome to this edition of Supervisors Report with Nate Miley. I'm your host, Dr. Marshall Kamina. Joining me now is Supervisor Miley. Welcome, Supervisor.
Hi, how are you today?
Oh, it's a great day. I'm sure glad to see you.
Thank you.
What topics or announcements would you like to share with our viewers today?
Well, let me see. You know, I just wish everybody a great day, a great week. And I'm just thankful that we are here to enjoy one another's company.
Amen. I'm with you. Now, as federal policies evolve, the 2026 point-in-time count is a key tool to advocate for the resources our community needs. Can you tell us about this process, how it's done? Also, what are your findings from the PIT count for people experiencing homelessness in Alameda County in any designated 24-hour period?
Well, the way the point-in-time count, it takes place once a year. It's something that's required by the federal government. And so every jurisdiction does a point-in-time count. We did ours a few weeks ago. We had about, if I recall correctly, we had over 1,000 volunteers. I think it was close to like 1,300 volunteers. And they were designated to go out to various locations throughout Alameda County to count both people who are in homeless encampments, people who are sleeping in trailers, parked cars, things of that nature, and count them. And they go out at like 5 in the morning, so it's very early. I didn't join them. I've yet to join the point-in-time count. God bless those who volunteer to do the point-in-time count. And now they have devices. I think they have iPads or electronic devices where they can actually do a quick survey and enter some data as well. And they can ascertain maybe the person's condition, what he or she might want to volunteer, maybe how many people are, sharing that facility, that encampment, that trailer, whatever it might be. It is kind of challenging because you're waking people up early in the morning to count them. But we haven't gotten the results from our point-in-time count. We're hoping that we have more people who are leaving homelessness than are entering homelessness. And so that's our biggest hope. We should have the results from the point-in-time count in another couple of months. But that's about as much as I can provide at this moment in time. The Health Committee for the county of which I chair will be receiving this information probably in another few months.
Well, thank you for that. Would you please mention any updates from the Healthcare Services Agency about COVID, flu, and measles outbreaks in Alameda County? Also, on the subject of health, you recently had a meeting with the Community Providers Advisory Group. What is that group and what is the mission?
Okay. Well, we're still concerned about COVID and we're concerned about measles. There has been a few outbreaks of measles. If I recall correctly, I didn't get any data from our health officer around that topic, but I know that continues to be a concern, particularly with the administration, the Health and Human Services Administration under Kennedy, kind of doing away with vaccines and not necessarily recognizing the importance of vaccines. And I think that's causing some consternation. And when we maybe had measles under control, the fact that he's not a champion of vaccines, it's allowing measles maybe to pop up again when it wasn't, when we necessarily didn't have that as a major concern, contemporarily speaking. So I can't recall at the moment if there's been any significant outbreaks in the county. I do know of maybe one or two, but nothing that has resonated to come to the attention of the Board of Supervisors from our health officer to date. But we are definitely monitoring all of those diseases, COVID, measles, etc. The CPAG, the Community Providers Advisory Group, That's what we call the CPAG, the Community Provider Advisory Group, met a few weeks ago, and is made up of our federally qualified clinics, some of our health centers, some of our community-based organizations, and it meets quarterly to talk about topics that are of major concern in our ability to deliver appropriate health safety net services. This month, or this meeting, the focus was on the Medi-Cal re-enrollment and Medi-Cal concerns that are taking place. But even more important, under H.R. 1, that's the big, beautiful bill that the Trump administration was able to pass that's having significant implications. But I think more so at the moment for the providers, they're concerned about Proposition 1, which took away money from preventive health care. And now we have a number of providers who can't go upstream and provide health care to prevent mental illness. And to address mental illness, money's going into housing and it's going more downstream. So when you couple the loss of funding for mental health prevention and you couple the challenges under H.R. 1 with Medi-Cal and how that's affecting the Alameda County health systems, our federally qualified clinics, our health centers, and others. When you put all that together, we're looking at some significant health challenges in terms of the ability to have sufficient resources. Despite the fact that we have Measure W and we set aside about $250 million for essential health services, we still possibly will be facing a significant crisis in our ability to ensure safety net services, both preventive mental health as well as other health services through all of our different channels, the clinics, the hospital, as well as our health centers. So that's kind of a lot of what was being discussed and continues to be discussed.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back on this edition of Supervisors Report with Nate Miley in just a moment. Welcome back to this edition of Supervisors Report with Nate Miley. On the subject of illegal dumping, would you please mention some of the considerations covered by the annual conference on illegal dumping? Did you actually go?
Well, our conference is April 30th and May 1st. So the conference hasn't taken place. It's coming up. And it'll be our 5th annual conference. And yes, April 30th and May 1st. The first day of the conference will be a hybrid conference. And the second day will be in person. It'll take place in Oakland. It's a statewide conference. And as I said, it's our 5th annual conference. And it's an opportunity for the private sector, the public sector, community-based organizations, concerned citizens to come together to discuss the topic of illegal dumping, both as it affects people in rural communities, suburban communities, and urban communities, because as I often say, illegal dumping has no boundaries, and it affects us all. And we promote the 3 E's: education, eradication, and enforcement. And I often tell people enforcement is key, and we don't necessarily have to lock people up for minor illegal dumping violations. We need to hold them accountable and get them out to clean up their illegal dumping. And for repeat offenders and for illegal dumping of toxic chemicals and construction debris and other things, obviously there should be fines and penalties, and maybe depending on the nature of it, there could be even jail time. It could be a criminal act. But enforcement is really important, because education alone, eradication alone, it's not enough. And if you can imagine, with eradication, some people take advantage of that. They know that if they dump their stuff illegally, somebody's going to come back around and pick it up. So they're getting a free service. So that's why enforcement is really, really important. And it's just like traffic laws. If you don't have enforcement with traffic laws, then everyone will disobey traffic laws and we'll have pandemonium. It's the same thing with legal dumping. People are just dumping illegally, and enforcement is really, really key. We are working with the state to come up with some strategies so that we can address those statewide efforts. And we're learning lessons learned as people confront illegal dumping, from unregulated haulers to the perpetual dumpers. We're looking at how we can address the difference between just mere trash that's being maybe strewn about to someone just coming and dumping illegally debris and other types of materials and objects. And so it is a major concern. It's not only an environmental concern, it's a public health concern, and it's a public safety concern. And the reason it's a public safety concern is when people dump in communities and that dumping is not picked up and it continues to proliferate, it brings down the quality of life in that community, and that becomes a new norm, and it's a breeding ground for other types of asocial and criminal behavior that we've seen take place in communities that have a lot of illegal dumping, where and it just becomes the norm and people just don't care. So that's what our conference is all about. And when we do the conference, it brings a sense of hope to everyone who's involved in trying to fight and address this problem of illegal dumping.
In 2025, Governor Newsom launched the State Action for Facilitation on Encampments, known as SAFE. The idea was to maximize state resources and work with local partners to coordinate encampment removals, connect unhoused individuals with housing, healthcare, and services. What is the status of this state support project in Alameda County?
Well, our staff continues to work closely with the state to address the problem of illegal dumping, of encampments. And as you know, through Measure W, the Board of Supervisors has set aside about $1.4 billion over the next 5 years to look at encampments and homelessness, and to bring about a reduction in homelessness. And that's why that point in time count is important, because it's like a baseline that we can work from. And we want to put more money into shelters. We want to put more money into preventing people from becoming homeless. And we want to put more money into getting people, once they are housed, permanently housed, so they can sustain themselves in their housing. Those are some of the strategies, and I think that aligns itself well with the governor's approach. A lot of jurisdictions are responsible for addressing illegal dumping, encampments through an encampment management or an encampment abatement program or policy. Alameda County, we don't have an abatement policy when it comes to encampments other than in the unincorporated area. Otherwise, the abatement of encampments is strictly a city function. So all cities, if they choose to, can come up with an encampment abatement program or policy. And then the county would help to provide resources to provide housing, shelter, services, things of that nature. And that aligns, I think, pretty well with what Sacramento is looking for.
All right. How do you stand on the issue of community engagement efforts around the 580 truck ban efforts?
Well, right now, with the 580 truck ban, the Caltrans and the Bay Area Quality Management District are both doing a study. The study takes about 18 months. So we do expect to have the results of that study by next year. And they're studying what would be the impact of lifting the ban, both the impact on traffic, congestion, and then through the air district, the impact on air quality. So until that study's completed and they come back with recommendations, I'm basically remaining neutral. I support the need for the study. I want to be unequivocal about that. I support the need for the study, but the results of the study will determine what we do next, if the ban should be lifted or not lifted. And from Caltrans' perspective, they'll look at it from traffic, and then Air District will look at it from the perspective of air quality. And we don't want to shift the problem from 880 to 580 or vice versa. We want to try to look at this in a holistic manner. And if Caltrans and the Air District come back with a recommendation to lift the ban, I think people need to realize the county nor the cities determine whether or not that ban can be lifted. That ban is part of state law. So in order to remove the truck ban on 580, the state legislature would have to repeal the law. They'd have to repeal the law. And if they repeal the law, the governor would have to, support that repeal. Otherwise, the governor could veto it. So this process is far from over. Far from over. Right now, we're just in the stage of the study. And then let's see what comes of the study. And I know both Caltrans and the Air District have an advisory committee that's looking at this, as well as they're going out and doing community engagement, which is really, really, really important.
Well, as usual, you make a great deal of sense. And thank you, Supervisor, for being here today and updating us. I'm Dr. Marshall Kamina. Join us for the next episode of Supervisor's Report with Nate Miley right here on Tri-Valley TV. Thank you all for watching.